Good evening, everyone. My name is Marcus Diaz. Welcome to the Ghost Train, episode 17. It is June 10th, 2015. We're right here, dead center. Well, I guess you could say almost the tail end of the chase season. Unless you live up north, then it's just starting to get good up there. Tonight, we're going to be kind of doing things a little bit differently. One of our guests does have to leave rather quickly, so we're going to try to get to him as much as we can first. And then we'll have our other guest tell us a story. Now, of course, we've been advertising this for the last few days. Pretty great episode we got going on. Couple of guys that have chased for quite some time. In fact, every one of my guests have chased for quite some time. I'm actually the noobish one out of a group of 8 years of chasing. So now you'll see Verne's face at the bottom of your screen, but just know that Verne's computer does not like Google Hangouts. So what we have done is we have Verne looking really distressed in this picture, but right here in my phone, I have Verne on the phone, so Verne will actually talk to us through my phone. So Verne, say hi to everybody.
Hey everybody. Yeah, I'm actually not distressed as my picture looks down there. That was just a screen grab.
Yeah, it just froze at the right time, but we were trying to get Verne on. His computer was just not cooperating at all, which we've had that issue with Dan Robinson. Dan's computer does not like Hangouts, so he has to use his phone as well. But this was kind of last second with the phone, so that's what we're going to work with for now. Our other new guest is Chris Collura. Chris, how you doing, Chris?
Pretty good. How about yourselves?
Doing great. Just melting in the summer heat.
Yep.
So Chris, of course, is from the Chicago, Illinois area. So Chris gets to dabble in all the great warm front surprise days. You guys kind of get spoiled this time of year with the little surprise setups that do happen.
And then I'm still within range of going out west and chasing the good stuff anyway. It's only about a half a day's, maybe a day's drive to get out there, so I save on airplane tickets now. I'm from Florida originally, so.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You're from Florida. So, yeah, you would actually have to forecast days in advance and fly out to the plains. Is that correct? Or did you drive?
Yep, pretty much.
Wow.
So I can clear my schedule like about 3 days in advance. I'm fine because that's pretty much the 72 hours, like the limit of the model accuracy right now.
Exactly. So, so are you happy you moved up here to Chicago then?
Yeah, pretty much. Just was getting too expensive and kind of different lifestyle up here. Great people, great job. Everything's been kind of working out so far. Been up here for about 2 years now.
Well, good to hear. Skip Talbot also joins us. Skip. There he is.
Hey, everybody.
Superhero. That storm chasing superhero right there.
How's it going?
Are you ready to kind of get down with some Northern Plains chasing?
Oh, man. I've been waiting all year to get up there. It's a dream. Absolutely. June in the Northern Plains is my favorite time and place. So.
Exactly. It's funny. I've never had the opportunity to chase too much in the Northern Plains, and when I have, it's never been in June. But I've worked really hard to clear my schedule from the 17th through the 20th of next week, and I do plan to doesn't matter where the setup is, I just know I'm going north. And so, might end up in the Dakotas, may even hit up my first Minnesota chase, never know. Could end up in Wyoming or something. It's too far to tell, but for sure I'm getting out there. So
awesome, man.
I'm excited.
We'll see you out there.
Yeah, we'll see you out there. We'll see everyone else out there. If you see me out there, feel free to say hi. I'm a very approachable guy. So, all right. Well, Verne has a very exciting story to tell us, and I'm gonna let him tell the story. But I'm gonna make everyone at home just have to sit in anticipation, because we're gonna save Verne's story for last. And that's mostly because Chris does have to leave here rather soon. He had, I believe, a business dinner to go to. So we'll try not to hold him too late. We might have to hold him hostage. I don't know. It just depends on if the ransom comes through. Then we might let him go. But until that check clears, he's ours. Chris, how long have you been a storm chaser?
I would say I started chasing in April of 1986. It was right when I got my learner's permit. I was down in Florida after moving down from New York in '85. So I used to be terrified of storms. My grandfather and I sat and watched a storm when I was a kid, and then I started getting disappointed when storms would miss out town. So as soon as I got my driver's license, I saw the cumulonimbus tower going up quite a ways away. I was like, why don't I just go to it instead of waiting for it to come to us where it's going to miss us all the time? The first storm chase was like a strong to severe thunderstorm, had small hail and high winds, lots of lightning at dusk, and I thought it was pretty cool. It was April 1986, and kind of got in a little bit of trouble because I got back home late. I had a curfew. I was a teenager back then. I had school the next day. And just about 6 months later, in December of 1986, January 1987, I saw my first small tornado. And that was in Pompano Beach, Florida, or for kind of a winter-like setup. Sometimes you get small supercells go through there as they build up along the front. And ironically, I had my buddy who was visiting from New York. He saw his first tornado with me.
Oh, interesting. So, wow, 1986 is your first chase. So that's almost 30 years chasing. That is quite a lot.
And after that, it was pretty much Hurricane Floyd, my first hurricane, in the year later in 1987. That was down in the Florida Keys. I do the hurricanes too, so.
Yeah, you kind of jumped on the hurricanes a little early. A lot of guys usually kind of wait to do the hurricanes until later on.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you know, getting right into it, that's incredible. That's an incredible stint of chasing. I'm sure you've seen chasing, and not just the chasing itself, but the forecasting has evolved just, you know, very rapidly. Of course, you know, we talked to Gene Moore last week, who I'm going to be bad at this. I don't remember exactly what he said. He said something over 40 years of chasing, and you know, from going to paper maps that he'd have to get at the Weather Service, and you know, getting, you know, the faxes and stuff, and going from that to where we are today, it was quite a jump. Wow. So whenever you were first starting chasing, I guess in 1986, you weren't really doing much forecasting. I guess it would be more like just visual chasing from.
Pretty much. What we would look at is there's a sea breeze boundary, which is kind of like almost like the Palma Divide. It always happens in the same place, and it's you got Lake Okeechobee, you got the two coasts down in South Florida, and sea breeze fronts converge in the middle of in the middle of the state. You know, almost at the same time in the summertime. The only thing that really affects the severity of the storm is you have like a weak trough aloft. Everything is very subtle. It's kind of like hard to really pick out the detail. But, you know, if you look at the winds are out of mainly the westerly wind is what causes the storms in South Florida in the summertime, or squall lines and fronts with storms developing out ahead of them in the wintertime. So I was pretty much chasing in Florida up until about 99. But 99, then I started taking cracks at the bigger stuff out in Oklahoma, Kansas, and the central U.S.
Right, the real chasing where that happens, right? Now, okay, so you know, fronts, kind of what you look for is fronts and sea breeze boundaries. You know, I can see how that's what you look for. But take us to the first time you went into the plains in '99. What was your forecasting like, or what was your knowledge of forecasting at that time?
Well, at that point, we still had access to the internet, so a big thing was getting a nowcast from a person who was sitting in front of a computer, called me and my group and say, hey, we got a storm popping up over here or there, or there's a boundary or a dry line that's prodded to come out in the western Kansas, and a warm front. It would tell us where the boundaries are. Sometimes we'd get a piece of paper and actually write on the piece of paper where the boundaries are based on what they were telling us. We didn't have mobile internet back then. You just couldn't get internet on the road. It was about 2003, 2004 was when you started getting the mobile cell phone. It was very slow. You could only pull up one image at a time. But so our forecasting was kind of in the morning. We would go to a library and we'd go on the internet there, and we would look and find out where everything is. And then the rest of the day was visual and nowcasting, pretty much.
Okay, so you know, I guess times were a lot simpler back then, in terms of how much data you get, because you know, last episode we were talking about, and Gene actually mentioned it, how you can actually get too much data today, and you just start jumbling your head with different data and different plots, and you know, you can really throw yourself off on a chase day.
Right.
So now, unfortunately, you did miss all, you know, the action last week.
Yeah.
But you do have one tornado this year that not a lot of people do have, and it was probably the most violent tornado we've had of the year, and that's the April 9th tornado of Rochelle, Illinois. So have you had any other luck since then, or I guess
I had some
throughout the
luck
year?
on May 8th and May 9th when I went out. May 8th was near, I believe it was Granfield, Oklahoma. And I was on HP Supercell, saw a brief multi-vortex tornado deep in the bear's cage on that. Got some baseball hail, but the hail grills helped protect my vehicle because I got hail grills on my Ford Escape. The next day after that was kind of like when the luck started to change pretty much. It was when I was chasing the stuff into Colorado, which was on May 9th. And I always make sure I have my tank full. Well, my tank was at a quarter tank, and unfortunately, when I was headed out halfway between Ed's and Johnson City, headed west on 400, I had to backtrack back to Johnson City about an hour to get gas because there's no gas stations out there. So that's where I kind of fell behind on that. I did see the consolation on that, which was the Grinnell storm at night, the Grinnell, Kansas storm on I-70. Got the beautiful tornado illuminated by lightning and the structure, like with the whole low-top supercell with the tornado underneath it. That was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, that I don't like talking about that day. No, May 8th and May 9th, those were two chases that I messed up. I mean, I was on the Throckmorton storm on the 8th, didn't see anything. And then May 9th, I was part of that big parade in Southwest Kansas, and I could have easily have made, the Colorado if I'd have just kept going.
Yeah, same.
I stayed the night in Wichita Falls. I could have just stayed in Wichita Falls and seen a tornado about 40 minutes north of Wichita Falls. So, those are the kind of days I understand.
And that's one good point. You can be the best forecaster in the world. It just takes one turn, one little, stroke of bad luck like that, and it can make or break a whole thing. I mean, that even happened in my favor, Rochelle. It didn't happen in my favor with the Ed storm in Colorado, just because I fell a half hour behind in gas. Just having to backtrack for gas. So after that, I bought a canister and always have that extra fuel canister in the car. Unfortunately, after that, really didn't need it, but,
You never know.
Yep.
Cool. So what kind of take us through your normal process of forecasting now, as in, let's just say for the next week or so. What are you looking at? What models do you favor? What are some of the key parameters that you're looking for, to pull the trigger on a day?
Okay, well, first of all, I use SBC and their outlooks as a very rough guidance. That's just kind of like an idea of what's going on, because they have that. We're all looking at the same data. For me, personally, I wake up every morning on a chase day. Let's say we got a slight risk in, like, say, western Oklahoma or something, and I'll get up and I'll start looking at mainly the rapid update cycle, the RAP, or the RUC, which is on NCAR's site, which is ncar.edu/weather. National Center for Atmospheric Research pull their page up. I look at their precipitation model, which they give you a forecast each hour up to 18 hours out. Look at the 925 millibar wind, see if they're backed. Look at the surface, see if the surface low is forming, lee cyclone, warm front, convergence line, cold front, or dry line preferably, developing late in the day. I look at the dew point, temperature, different stuff in the low levels first. And kind of work my way up to 850 millibars, see if there's any veering, see if there's a little jet in the morning, see what the moisture is, see if there's going to be any cloud cover that might hamper development later on. Then go up to about 10,000 feet, see if there's a cap there, see if there's moisture, because that would make or break, how things are going to turn out later on in the day. And then mainly look at 500 millibars, see what the upper level trough is doing, and see if there's any divergence in the H25, which is 250 millibar level, about 34,000 feet above ground level, or MSL. That altitude is kind of like where you're looking at the jet stream flow, and a lot of times you'll see a split flow. And as John Davies talked about at the convention, if you saw his forecasting class, the northern side of that speed max where the split is, the southern speed max and the northern side of that is kind of like the main exit region where you want to be. For some reason, that happens to be a good forcing area for tornadoes and supercell development. That's a upper support moves in. So I look at that and then kind of make a pretty good judgment on, okay, looks like the target area is going to be, say, Guymon, Oklahoma, or Liberal, Kansas, or something. And then, maybe do a little. That's kind of like the main forecast in the morning, the first one I do, and then as I start getting to the target area, since we're lucky enough now to have mobile internet, to pull that up and see how the day unfolds. And then look at the HRRR to see if it's breaking out any precip, because that's kind of, that gives you some, it's not accurate, but it can give you some ideas what might go or what might not. So
be careful. Skip will call you a cheater if you use the her.
Peter, sometimes it's spooky accurate, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, I agree. I've seen it just complete, like, it'll say every single run, there's going to be a cell at this location, cell, and then sure enough it happens. It's crazy how it can just nail it so good, but then, of course, it can also
I've
just
just
go to left
starting
field.
to use that recently, and I've been noticing, like, that's pretty interesting how it, you know, it even shows differences between supercells and MCSs.
Yeah, I guess one recent day where it completely failed was June 4th. Of course,
Yeah.
this is the
Overnight.
day that, you know, of course, the upslope played well. Verne got, you know, on that storm. But you were kind of part of that group that was sitting in northern Kansas where the herd was just like, here's all the supercells, just blowing them up.
Yeah.
And the cap held. It held until, you know, pretty much right after dark when it finally
We actually
went.
had one tower go up over Phillipsburg about 5:30ish in the afternoon, and it went up nice, beautiful column, you know, and it was just a cumulus cloud, and it actually had a vault and striations and everything. I mean, it was like there was no precip falling at it, but that thing was rotating like a top. The orphan anvil broke apart from it, and then the storm just fizzled out. The cap got it, and all the other Q went away. The orphan anvil of that thing, it left a little orphan anvil. That had a funnel on it. That's how much spin there was in the atmosphere. So if anything could have went there, we would have a wedge fest, I bet.
Yeah, that day had Bennington Part 2 written all over it. Just didn't have the storm to do it. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess are you going to be chasing? Do you have any days in the future that you're looking at
Might
chasing?
be here locally tomorrow if I can get out of work early enough tomorrow, because it's going to be kind of like nearby here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it to central Iowa or anything. I think it's going to be more around here where the warm front is and that stationary front. But I'm going to try to get out like those days you're going out, like around next weekend maybe.
Never go to Iowa when the
Iowa is capping everywhere.
No, if you know, and Skip's right. Don't go to Iowa if there's a warm front in Illinois.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
Look at today, right? Actually, that's exactly what happened today. Is the Iowa warm front is lighting up, but it's that stuff in central Illinois that looks a lot better. So that's just what happens.
That's why we call it Liowa. Instead of, you know.
Yeah, I always think of capping when I see Iowa anyway. So
Yeah. Like I said, 17th through the 20th. You know, it's funny. You know, they're still thinking it's wish casting that far out. But I have been watching it. Like I take a look at it at least twice a day on the GFS, and the GFS has one thing that it's been showing, and that's westerly flow, southerly 850s, and a lot of moisture. And that's all you need this time of year.
Yeah. You don't even need the 500 millibar much anymore. Just as here's the the one on that's the Rochelle storm. Just so you guys can see it. Here we go.
Oh man, doesn't that make you sick, Skip?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen Chris's shots. They're awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Oh yeah. What's that, Vern?
That's a Photoshop right there.
Yeah, my watermarks, the Photoshop.
Yeah, he put his watermarks on the Photoshop. You know, one of my favorite videos that I like to watch, Vanny Chase, and I don't know, I think you actually took it down. I don't know if you took it down or not, but was it June 12, 2005?
Yes.
The Kent County, Texas, just tornado factory.
Yeah,
you know, that thing was just...
I almost walked on that one. I almost didn't chase that, and I said, let me just stay here a little bit more, and sure enough, that probably had the first best chase in my life. That was like 12 different tornadoes, and each one was different. You'd think it was from a different storm.
Yeah, I mean, tornadoes of all, you know, shapes and sizes. You know, had the big wedge, had the little dancing vortices under a big wall cloud. You also had a dancing Steve Miller that was freaking out. Really, and that was funny.
Steve Miller, Texas. Yep, yep.
Yeah, and yeah, that's one of my that's gotta be one of my favorite
Yeah, that's
chase
still up on
footage.
my. It's on my website somewhere. It's in the Midwest Chasing 2005, I believe. There's 2 sections for it to be in the second one.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens down here when you have a little bit of a little bit of bulk shear and about 70-degree dew points up on the cap rock. That's what happens.
Yeah.
So, well, cool. Do we need to let you go soon, Chris, or do you want to stick around for a little bit?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to get going. It's already 8 o'clock, and just want to let you know I'm really happy to be a part of this.
Yeah, we'll we'll be more than happy to have you back on whenever you have time.
Definitely.
So we'll go ahead and we'll send you an invite next time, if you want to be back on, and maybe you'll have a full episode to come talk to us.
Okay, cool. Very good.
All right, thank you, Chris, for being on the show.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Chris. Yeah, out there.
Bye.
See ya. Oh man. So all right. Well, Verne, we'll talk to you, I guess.
Sounds good.
So okay. So how long have you been chasing?
I actually started about a year after Chris did, 1987. It was just by accident. A funnel came over my house, and I grabbed my camera and chased it across the parking lot of the apartment building. But after that, I was hooked.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. You get that one chase where you almost see something, and after that, you're just like, okay, I got to do this for like the rest of my life.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. It was a few years later. I kind of forgot about it and ran into another tornado by accident up in South Dakota. I used to go caving up there at Cave of the Winds, or Wind Cave, and coming back from a trip up there, we ran into a tornado, big stout cone with baseball halo around it at Edgemont, South Dakota. And so after that, I was really hooked. Then I learned that people actually go out and follow these things and try to increase their odds of seeing them rather than just randomly running into them like I was doing.
Well, that's and what year was that when you decided, or when you found out that people actually chase storms?
That was 1991.
That was a
So
good.
I had a gap from 87 to 91 where I still loved weather. I've always loved weather. I mean, as a kid, I would fly my kites. And, not look at the kite. I'd be looking at the storm coming in from the west behind the kite. But yeah, then I guess I would say my first real chase where I got in the car and went to a target was 1995, I want to say. That was a Palmer Divide chase. We would go out with just the AM radio and no data, nothing, and paper maps, and we heard that there were tornadoes in Parker, Colorado, and they were moving northeast, so I was like, okay, I'll just get out ahead of these things, and in an hour it'll be up on I-70 by Strasburg. And sure enough, that same cell came across, dropped 2 more tornadoes on the field. Amazing to watch. I had my giant VHS camcorder at that time that I used to record them. That was probably the first time I got some tornado video on the news too. Local TV picked it up. So that was pretty exciting. But, yeah, we used to go out with just like a little 5-inch black and white TV under the dash of your car and try to pick up local TV station radar images and AM radio reports. That was kind of the only way that we had to know what was going on once we left the house. I wasn't really big into forecasting there. I couldn't read maps. I couldn't look at charts or anything, so I didn't bother getting a hold of any of those. It was mostly local radio.
Yeah, so I mean, that is kind of doing it the hard way as well. Just working off of radios and paper maps. That's the old-fashioned way, for sure. Um, and so nowadays, let's go ahead and talk about that. Nowadays, what are you looking at when you're forecasting?
Oh, the GFS, long range out, and the NAM as it comes into range. SPC, of course. You always like to get up after midnight and look at the day one outlook, see how your next day is going to go. The day of chase, I'll look at the ruck model, her new Doppel model. Been looking at that this year. That's kind of helpful. And then just surface ops day. Is there southeast winds out of Lyman? What's the dew points? We have, if you get over 50 dew points in Lyman, you start getting excited. If it gets close to 60 out there, you get really excited. Look for, the 500 millibar winds coming in at the same time. Is there a good cold pool loft? 700 millibars. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, you say 60 dew points in Lyman is really good. And then I remember a storm last year. What was that? May 21st, 2014. Just this biggest, nastiest looking HP supercell over Denver Airport, and everyone that's chasing there is like, wait a minute, HPs in Colorado? How does that work? And so
right, that was probably a mid 50 dew point.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the orographic lifting, we've already got our air parcels, way up, over 850 millibar. They're already lifted by the terrain. So it doesn't take a lot of dew points up here to get beautiful storms and big tornadoes.
As we found out this week, or this last week, I should say. Everybody hates you because you got those tornadoes, just so you know.
Well, it's kind of funny because the day before was supposed to be the big day, June 3rd, and because of the morning cloudiness, once again, the thing of, that's been killing everything in 2015, the morning convection, morning cloudiness, keeping the target area too cold, that kind of killed June 3rd. We had the 10% tornado target from Denver up through Cheyenne, up into Wyoming, and we got good storms down there on the Palmer that day, but they just didn't have that low-level inflow to spawn tornadoes.
Yeah, that was.
I got up June 4th, the morning of, and saw the sunshine, and basically the same setup. Very excited about that.
Yeah, you knew exactly what was going to happen. Give me 1 second. My batteries on my mouse died, so I can't even navigate between stuff, and now I've got to hunt batteries down. And I know I have batteries somewhere. Where is it? The most professional podcast on the internet here. Here we go.
Of course. Oh,
Exactly. I'll just take them out of my Xbox controller here and shove them in here. Skip, we'll kind of gloss over you because you kind of answered these questions last time.
Yeah.
And of course, we've already answered, your first chase and whatnot back at the very first episode of the podcast, I believe it was. But now, did you? Hold on, my mouse is still like fidgety. Work. Okay, my mouse is like, no, I don't want to work.
Now
I don't have a mouse.
I had mouse trouble earlier.
I know. Okay, here's the thing. I don't have a mouse pad, and I think that's what kills me the most. So I have to use my T-shirt. I don't think my T-shirt's mouse friendly. Here we go. I'm scooting over to Skip. Now then, Skip, Did you happen to chase last week?
No. I've been out with the TIV crew for the most part this season, and we had been out for those guys had been out for weeks and weeks, and I had been out for a week at the end there, and we were calling it and going home. So, and we had been chasing these 2%, 5%, 2%, 5% days over and over, and we were pulling bird farts out of each of them, and people were getting pretty tired of that. They were done. And so we're like, okay, we're going home. Then we saw this next set of 2%, 5%, 2% days coming up again. And it was like, well, we're just going to roll the TIV for this trip. Doghouse is staying home. So, okay, Doghouse is not going out. Maybe I'll go out on my own. But I had been gone for a week, and the family was not liking me running out there on my own. So they're like, no, you're home for this week. So I had to sit the last week out. So, and sure enough, it's like one of the biggest events of the year. So
Best tornado day of the year almost.
yeah.
I don't know. That storm on June 4th makes me want to do. I guess possibly like towards the end of the year we'll do like storm of the year or tornado of the year, and we'll include. That storm, obviously, there's a lot of other nominees for the year. You have Elmer, Oklahoma tornado. You have Canadian, Texas tornado. You have all the stuff on May 9th. Cisco, Texas. There's several nominees, I guess you could put for tornado of the year, and we'll put something up. We'll put something together towards the end of the year for that. And I don't know. I guess you get bragging rights if you chase the tornado of the year. So we'll try that out. We'll try that something. That's a little something we can do. You got any other Rochelle, of course.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but I still think that's the front runner for tornado of the year.
I mean, first off,
people will disagree with that, I'm sure, but
who the people who disagree with it were all the people that were stuck in Iowa. Or staying in Iowa.
I chased Iowa, and I think that was probably the best tornado of the year. So, and that's what makes it sting so bad.
It's big, it was violent, but it was also photogenic. That's kind of the big thing.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing about Colorado is those tornadoes were absolutely gorgeous. I mean, they were stunning, but to be honest, kind of relatively weak and small. Certainly not a borderline EF5 wedge that's white on aquamarine, no less. So.
Yeah, that I'm gonna have to agree with you unless we get something coming up next weekend, which I think it's possible. This third week in June, I believe, is like meteorologically the peak of tornado season. Like you can go back and look at how many tornadoes are up per day for a certain day, and I think the 16th and 17th are they're almost up to 99% of the time, or there's gonna be a tornado reported, something like that. There's a chart, and I forget where I think it's on SPC somewhere. It's on the WCM page, but that's kind of the peak of tornado season in terms of numbers, not maybe necessarily in terms of strength. Although there are days, June 17th has been a very popular day for the last, 7 years probably, I guess you could say.
Yeah, we've been talking about that in the Storm Track chat a lot. Neil Rasmussen was keeping count for us. He's like, there's been a tornado every year since 2002 or something.
Really? On June 17th? On the 17th, huh?
Yeah, so, and I remember talking to the Minnesota Weather Service guys up there. They said the climatological peak for them is June 16th. So, yeah, it's June 16, June 17. If there's any sort of active pattern, you should be up in the northern plains. So.
Yeah, just depends on whether you're going to go east on I-80 or west on I-80. That's where you'll, or keep going north.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I'm excited because this is finally my chance to go check out this whole Northern Plains deal that I keep missing every year in June. And it's always because I either burn all my vacation time so I got none left, or I burn all my money so I have none left. And luckily this year I happen to just have both available, so why not use it? It's June is that weird month where you don't really have to be a good forecaster to get something. You just got to know exactly what you're looking at, the day of. Because today is a great example. I mean, you had tornado-warned storms in Illinois. There wasn't even a 2% tornado risk out there today. I don't think they upgraded at all. So I think the tornado risk was actually confined to New York, which is weird.
Well, I don't think we got any reports, so technically they were right.
Exactly. No reports. So they nailed it, but there was some supercells. They had the lake effect, sea breeze boundary that was sitting up over Chicago. You could see it. You could probably still see it really clearly on radar. I don't have radar up, or else I would. Now, before we get to Verne's story, Skip, I believe you said you had a story of getting really close, getting a little too close, I guess you could say. I know I haven't watched the video because I've just been super busy, but I really want to watch the video you made with Doghouse. And I remember you said there was an instance in that video where, you guys are sitting there and suddenly the thing's right above you. And then of course, last episode, I believe it was the last episode, maybe it was a couple episodes, I don't know. You were talking about down in Texas, or was that you, that was you, because you were in Doghouse, right?
Yeah.
And you guys got hit. Basically, a tornado developed on top of you, and kind of rattled your cage a little bit.
Absolutely.
So, did you have any other instances where you think you got a little too close, or you got a little too close?
We had our close calls. There was the what was the date? I used to know these like my child's birthday. April 19, 2011. We were driving through town, and we saw when we came out of town, the tornado was right in front of us. It had turned while we were in town. So
Mapleton, right?
An eighth of a mile from that. A few hundred feet, from the outer circulation. So closer than we were planning on getting, but it was already moving away. So we felt pretty confident getting up there. Of course, you're in prime position for the ghost train then, and luckily we didn't have any lines come down or lose any glass, because right behind the big tornado, and that was an EF3. So that was kind of our close call. The incident in the doghouse last week. I actually have some photos from Brindley if you want me to go into more detail about that.
Oh yes, we do. We love photos from Brindley.
Let me see if I can pull them up here on my screen.
My mouse. I'm about to throw this out the window. It is no longer working again. I just put batteries in. I know these batteries are good. This is gonna suck because I'm. Okay, here we go. I was going to show Verne's video as he was talking about his day. Okay, so here we go. Photos from Brindley of, what day was it?
This was May 26th, and we are in Central Texas, northeast of Abilene, northwest of Weatherford, and we're on a southeast moving HP supercell. Really a bizarre, unusual storm because the mesocyclone was propagating on the southeast corner of the storm. So these northwest shear vectors, and typically you want to be in the inflow notch to get the tornado on the shots, but not on this day. It was weird because after it would wrap up and occlude, the new meso would form on the southeast corner of the RFD gust front. I don't think I've ever chased a storm like that. So you didn't want to be way north in the notch. You kind of wanted to be continuously dropping south. So, and the way Tib was chasing this storm, which is how I would never chase on my own, but because we have armored vehicles and vehicles with hail guards, we're in the RFD core, basically, driving south. So we're basically in that green area the entire chase. And so we're just kind of behind the couplets, and it keeps wrapping up new couplets. This storm cycled about a dozen times and produced a number of tornadoes, and it kept wrapping up southeast, so we're driving south trying to kind of catch up with them. And there was one incident where we were driving south in the green core, and we came out, and in front of us there was RFD gust front. If you can make my other screen kind of the presenter, I don't know if you've got that up there.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, we had these ragged clouds in front of us here, and when we came out from the green rain, I see that in front of me, and I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, okay, it's RFD gust front. It's nothing to be too worried about. You know, we're kind of, you know, we're in the bear's cage kind of because we're in the RFD kind of core area, which is a dangerous location, but I'm not freaking out tornado when I'm seeing that. There's a tail cloud off to my left, and the radar had a couplet off to our left as well. And keep in mind, that's moving south, so it should be kind of heading our way. But the next scan, the couplet was gone. So I'm like, okay, it died. You know, all we have left here is some RFD gust front, whatever. And I get out of the doghouse to do what I call a stupid check, because I want to make sure we're not doing anything really dumb here, because we're underneath the storm. So I'm looking around and I see gust front, nothing too big, and we're actually getting outflow at our location. A west wind, the RFD is hitting us. So hang on a second. Just some background noise here.
Stand by.
So yeah, Brindley starts shouting, tornado, 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 and I look over to my left, and there's this thing in a lake. It's this little vortex with a plume above it, and the size of it makes me think it's a gustnado. Okay, so all right, no biggie. We've got a gustnado under the RFD gust front. That's fine, but it was moving the wrong direction. That gustnado should be moving east with the outflow. This was moving west and very, very fast. This thing was cruising across that lake, so it was in a larger wind field. And then all of this spray started coming up off of the water, and then I started putting two and two together, that we're not in an outflow portion of the storm, we're underneath an inflow portion of the storm. Because that gust front above us, these jagged clouds, that was drawing in cloud material very, very quickly, and then this plume of water was coming off of the lake and being ingested into that as well. And it was about that time that we all piled into the doghouse because the wind started to hit. Very, very hard wind, rocking the doghouse, shifting directions it went from west to south, then back west, and then north. And it was hardest when it was out of the north. And we had some small plant debris hitting the doghouse. And I'm still not really putting it together. Why? And I am like, where is this coming from? Why are we getting all of this wind? I don't see any structure that warrants this kind of wind. And I'm looking around, and then behind me and to the left and the right, and there's just gust front. And then finally I look straight up, just kind of slowly, was just like looking straight up out of the doghouse window. And above us, there is this bowl, just this huge bowl hanging over our heads. And here's Brindley's shot of it. This was just after it moved off of us, so you can see it's kind of off to our southeast now here. But that was immediately overhead, and she's shooting that at 14 millimeters on a full frame. So that is super, super wide shot of this thing, and that was just hanging over our head. Basically, you could put your arms up like this, and that was what was kind of hanging over our heads there. So at that point, I realized, okay, yeah, you know, a weak tornado basically spun up right on top of us there, and so yeah, we were kind of, and the TIV measured 76-mile-an-hour winds on their anemometer, which is weak for a tornado, but technically I think we were in a weak EF0 tornado there, and you know, it's kind of a bad incident, you know, because TIV is of course trying to get into that position, but the doghouse shouldn't be in the tornado. So I felt like, you know, that I had screwed up. Like I had made critical mistakes, and I put people at risk. You know, we were chasing dangerously. People could have gotten hurt. I should have seen those warning signs better, and I didn't. So I kind of failed there. And the other thing is the way we were chasing. You know, kind of in the core, in the bear's cage, under the gust fronts. Very, very dangerous way to chase. It's something I'm not typically doing, but just because we're with the TIV and trying to get instrument pods into the path of a tornado and film the deployment of those pods, we're chasing in a much more dangerous and aggressive manner than I normally would. So, so yeah, and that's what happens. You have these kind of incidents happen. And the structure going in wasn't obvious. It's not like we had a great big cylindrical mass over our head and all of these warning signs that a tornado was imminent. No, it was just kind of mediocre gust front structure, and then it very rapidly formed overhead. So, so yeah, and that's really what kind of bit us there. And at the time, I felt, pretty scared. There's some fear there where you're getting rocked by those winds. You don't know how intense it's going to get. Is there a significant tornado forming? Are the winds going to go up to 150 or higher? You don't know. And so there's that fear of the unknown when it's happening. And I'll admit, and I'm kind of ashamed of it a little bit afterwards, there's a lot of exhilaration. There's a shot of adrenaline, and you're kind of celebrating, like, wow, we were in a tornado, and that was awesome. And in hindsight, you feel really sick and guilty about that too. It's like, wow, we almost got ourselves killed there. Why are we celebrating that? That we should be ashamed of that. And but at the time, it was also a big rush. And yeah, but then afterwards, there's a lot of lingering kind of guilt and shame about it because we were reckless. And we should have done that. We should have been safer chasers. And unfortunately, that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for Brindley. Just we've been so aggressive, such very stressful storm chasing that she didn't like kind of that chasing in that setup anymore. So I don't think she's going to be joining us on any more chases in the doghouse, just because I think it's too dangerous and stressful. So. But yeah, I'm really proud that she was able to, as this thing is basically spinning on our heads, grab these photos. They're amazing. She got what I think is a sub-vortex in the larger wind field there, developing right off to our north, and then that huge bowl funnel hanging overhead. So really glad she was able to document that event. I don't know how well the TIV got it, because I don't think they were set up for a vertical shot like that, but. It wasn't a super pretty tornado either. It was kind of one of those, spin-ups in the field with kind of a funnel aloft. So not a super photogenic tornado, but the fact that you're that close makes it, so much more dramatic. But anyway, that's our story of the encounter, and kind of lessons learned is, when you're chasing that aggressively within the bear's cage, stuff's going to happen very quickly, and without warning, you can be hit by tornadoes. So, kind of the moral of the story is, be prepared for that. You're taking such a huge risk being in that position that you can get nailed so quickly. So, and we made it out fine. There was no damage. 76-mile-an-hour winds. We've been in that before, not in a tornado. So, everyone was fine. None of the vehicles took any damage, but still not a position we want to repeat or be in it again.
Yeah, I don't think. I guess I could say, 76 mile an hour winds probably not too much to handle. With a tornado, you don't know if it is going to get stronger or not.
Right.
It could grow very rapidly. You see that happen where tornadoes will form, and some of their sub-vortexes will just be really strong and whip them up really quick. So you just don't know if you're going to be part of that.
Right.
You don't really want to wait for it to see if that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think we were in the broad circulation. I don't think we were hit by any of those sub-vortices that Brindley was shooting. So those tight little vortices are the ones that pack the real wind. So, there were trees coming down near us. Herb up in the TIV said he heard a tree snap when we were in that position. So. Yeah.
I don't know if I told about my close experience. It actually happened this year as well. Before we get to Verne's, because Verne's is a big doozy. He's really lucky to actually even be here today to talk to us. But we'll get to him real quick. On my instance, and I got video of it. And I don't know, I guess I wasn't too freaked out about it, just because it was a weak tornado. But April 24th this year, up in central Kansas, up near Hayes. We chased a storm up there. It was a warm front day. Storms were going to fire off a dry line further near Hayes and move northeast and hopefully hit this warm front. Well, sure enough, that's what happened. And it's funny because when that storm went first tornado warning, we were actually watching a wall cloud to our west, and we were watching it for quite a long time. And then suddenly, off to our north, it almost looked like there was the edge of another meso forming, and I kept looking there. I was like, oh, keep an eye on that. And I kept watching it, and then, sure enough, ours to the west is starting to shrink. And then I look up there, and you kind of make this little, you can see the carving of this meso working in there. It's pretty low contrast, but I was like, all right, well, let's get closer to that thing. And as we're driving up there, you can just suddenly, I guess it just hits the warm front, and it just spins really rapidly. It becomes this. It almost looked like a wedge. From our point of view. The only problem was we were kind of going through some hills, and there's some valleys up there too, so you don't know if it's actually on the ground. And I was getting really close to calling it a wedge on video, but I was like, I think it is. I don't know. I mean, the rotation was pretty insane. But once we finally got up to it, it wasn't on the ground anymore. There was plenty of clearance, underneath it, so it wasn't tornadic. It wasn't on the ground at the time. May have been earlier, but I guess there was a lot more chasers closer. They didn't report it. No big deal. So by this time, we're on the dirt roads. We're on the dirt grid up in Kansas. And we're heading east to try to get ahead of this RFD. And, and that's the thing. You get underneath these things, or you get really close, you kind of lose focus on what structure you're looking at. You really don't know. I mean, it's really easy to... For me, at least, it's kind of easy to tell what's going on if you're about a mile away or more. But once you get right up in there, you kind of get a little disoriented. You don't exactly know what you're looking at. And so what I thought was just RFD surging was actually a wall cloud right above us. And I remember we're driving east, and then we pulled over because I thought the action was further north. And then I looked over my left shoulder back to almost to our southwest, and there was a little funnel coming right out of this wall cloud. And so I was like, oh, there it is right behind us. And so it was about a mile away, maybe a little bit less, maybe about 3/4. And we watched it snake out, and then debris cloud kicked up underneath it. And we thought that was really cool. It lasted for 30 seconds. And then the funnel started to retreat, but actually it started to retreat, then it kind of came back out, but it never touched again. And we were going to go up the road a little bit more to get ahead of it. And that's what we did. We went up the road about another half mile, and we had a clear viewing back to our west. We turned around, looked back to our west, and you can kind of see where it's still rotating. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, 50 yards right next to us in the field, the tornado spun up, and it spun up really quick, and then it went away. So we saw that, and we turned back towards it. We looked to our right, which it was to our right, out the back window, and it spun up again. And I have two people with me. One of my chase partners, he does not like getting close. That was too close for him, and so he had a little bit of panic in his voice. And I was trying to assure him, like, okay, it's okay, man, it's weak, it's okay. And we went south on this dirt road that we were on. The problem was it was a dead end at the end of it, which I knew we weren't going to be able to get away, but I figured we can go down a little bit and let it kind of pass and then come back in behind it. When we went down a little bit, I turned around, and it was kind of gone, but then it came back again, touchdown, same exact spot it was in. It was not moving. So I even said it. I was like, well, that thing's not even moving. So I went back up the road, right where we were, and it started to grow, and it started to come south. And when I saw it starting to come south, I heard it and I felt it. You could kind of feel the pressure drop, and we had a lot of strong winds, and it was clearly RFD wrapping into it from our southeast, where the RFD was coming around. And so it was spun up, and it almost looked like it was going to grow. And about that time, I was like, all right, we're out. We're not staying here to see what this is going to do. Because I've seen that happen where guys will be there when it forms right next to them at the beginning, and within 5 to 10 seconds, it's suddenly strong enough to blow windows out or whatever. So I wasn't going to be a part of that. So we took off. I had my buddy film out the window, and you could see still some ground action going on, but you see above it, you could kind of see the funnel, and it was a little bit bigger than I was thinking it was going to be. So um, I I'm going to be totally honest. I was really pumped at that point. I was concerned about who I had with me because I knew I was fine, and I knew that we were going to be fine. But mentally, I didn't know if those guys, the other two people that were with me, were going to be fine. So I was like, I better just get out of here because they're gonna. I don't need any of them to have a panic attack or anything. So we booked it out of there. As soon as we got, free and clear, the storm went HP immediately, and so um, after that, it was just HP the whole time. And but we caught it early. It was the first couple cycles of that storm that actually did it, and we lucked out, I think, because there wasn't a lot of things to hit out there, but there was a lot of tumbleweeds, and there was a lot of it looked like some crops that were getting thrown in there, and they move fast enough to where if they hit your window right, they could take out a side window or something. So, but yeah, that was my close encounter, probably 50 yards on a weak tornado. It was also rated an EF0, but again, it didn't hit anything. But well, I mean, it was sitting over some power lines, and it didn't do anything to the power lines. So I don't, it's not that strong, but it doesn't take much. But that's my experience, I guess. Getting a little too close, and I did look out. I don't plan to put myself in that situation again. That was one of those deals where it just happened to be that way, and I just lucked out. And I don't advise anybody to get that close. I know Skip's saying the same thing. Don't get that close because I remember, well, June 17th of '09. There's of course the famous footage from Reed, and where they're in the vehicle and the tornado spins up right next to them, and sure enough, it goes kind of right over them and blows out the windows. And so, stuff like that is could very easily happen. So, let me try to get my mouse up here because if I can get it up to the YouTube, we'll get Verne's point of view on this great tornado that he had. I mean, like Skip and I were saying, it may have been one of the best, of course, aside from Rochelle, might have been one of the best storms of the year. I'm sure for Verne, it was probably the best storm of the year. Am I right there, Verne?
Certainly the most memorable. And can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I was going to say it's certainly the most memorable chase for me. Up till that point, May 9th was highest in my list of thoughts, but yeah, June 4th kind of takes the cake now. But yeah, you never know what's going to be in one of those fields, and can be spun up and thrown into your car. And like you're saying, even a tumbleweed has a pretty good thick stalk on it. I've run into some of those where it's like hitting a small tree branch. So those could take your side window out, definitely.
Exactly.
But, yeah, June 4th, yeah, I think there were 8 tornadoes. There were reports of 5 to dozens, and everybody's been going back through their video and seeing how many tornadoes there were. The consensus is now that it was probably 8 different tornadoes.
Yeah, very cyclic supercell. Kind of talking about how that setup went. Classic, eastern Colorado setup, storms firing near the Palmer Divide. I think one thing that really helped that storm out considerably, and at least this is my opinion, it looked like it did interact with an outflow boundary that was coming in from Kansas. I guess from overnight MCS that went through, it actually spit out this outflow boundary, and it was very, very it was very clear on satellite. You can actually watch it. There's a great loop of it. Where
we actually we found your link and are going to add that to our Colorado Chasers compilation of that day. But yeah, there was that surge from Kansas coming in, and yeah, you can see it pushing Q towers up into the storm as it right moves and goes crazy, taking that southern dive. But yeah, we kind of got out at on Highway 86 early that day, and we're watching the first towers form. Kind of saw one storm become dominant, and watched it for nearly 2 hours from the same hill, and it just kept trying and trying, and it never did do anything. And then this new storm to the west of it started becoming dominant, and I think the timing was such that that western storm started to, have that outflow boundary reach it, and it just went crazy. Oh, so yep, I see you've got the video up.
Yeah, I got the video up.
Cool.
Let me.
This is actually kind of out of sequence.
Okay.
But that's okay. We can deal with it.
Okay.
I was pretty disheveled and torn up and scattered after this. So when I uploaded all my video clips to Doug Keithling, they were in no particular order, and so that's how they ended up getting posted.
Right.
So this is actually after I was hit. This is the tornado moving away from me, moving off to the south. And Daniel Shaw got pretty good video of it crossing Highway 24. And this is kind of what you're seeing right there is when it's crossing Highway 24. Now here, I'm getting bombarded with baseballs in the RFD of the tornado. It's just like depth charges in this little pond. And I paused to get video of this because this kind of reminded me of the Windsor tornado day, if you ever saw that video.
Yeah, and it also reminded me of May 24th of 11, Canton Lake.
Yeah, Canton Lake.
Your footage of brave enough to stand in a open field with softballs falling around you and a tornado off in the distance.
This time I was still in the car. I stayed in the truck.
Yeah.
But here we go. This is back to
backtrack really quick.
Dash cam.
Really quick, Verne. So take us. How did you get into this exact position?
Okay, so I was talking about that western storm that became dominant and it started tracking south along the outflow boundary, and we had a nice long ropey tornado just before this that lasted probably about 10 minutes on the ground, and it was way west of where I wanted to be, and so I went to the next county grid to the west because where I was just way too far away from it. And so I had a great vantage point on that first tornado. And this is actually the second tornado forming, beginning. But what happened was I was trying to stay out ahead of the storm because it was a direct south mover. So I'm coming down the grid road and expecting to keep able to, being able to follow it and go as far south as I need to. And it ends at this farmhouse. It just completely turns into their front yard, and the only other way out of here is back where that pond was. That was on their actual driveway, which was like a very muddy, that pond isn't usually there. That's just how saturated the ground was, and there's no way to get out of this spot. So I started getting hit with baseball hail, and I've got a new truck this year, but it's an older truck, but it's new to me, and I was trying to keep it out of the softball and the baseball hail, and so I'm parked next to the horse trailer that you can't see in the frame, but it's off to my left, and so here I'm sitting here hiding from the hail and thinking I don't have a tornado on the ground yet, and boom, the tornado condenses, and it's right behind this house. And my heart just sank, and I'm like, I am in big trouble. But then it disappeared again, and I'm like, all right, I'm okay. It lifted. I'm good. It's going to get windy, but not be so bad. And I'll be able to, stay out of the hail, and when this thing passes over me, I'll just keep chasing. So I'm sitting here, and it's getting windier. There's a small pool from kiddie pools flying across the yard, playground equipment. The trees are snapping behind the house. There goes the playground. That big winter thresher machine moves on the side of me. Then I get hit by the horse trailer. The horse trailer actually came off the ground, hooked the back of my truck, and spun me 90 degrees. And the horse trailer flipped up in the air, took my topper off on the corner, and it was kind of hanging on the back of the truck. So once the wind caught that open edge of the topper, it was like a big sail, and so it kind of it sat there and chattered against my back window for probably 30 seconds, and finally tore away and just disappeared. I never saw it again. And then the contents of the back of my truck. I had a sleeper bed back there, so pillows, blankets, memory foam, my nice tripod, a camping fan was back there. All that stuff got sucked out of the back of the truck. And I never did recover any of that stuff.
Yeah, it's probably somewhere near Campo by now, I'm sure.
Well, it's funny because I read a news report. They came out to this farmhouse and surveyed, the media did, and they must not have known I was there, and they said tornado was so strong that it brought debris from some other house here, so they probably found my blankets and pillows. And they're like, oh, it must have come from a house. It couldn't have come from a car.
Yeah.
But
so that was your dash cam footage. So yeah, if you're watching, the truck pivoted around, and that's where this horse trailer hit. Now this is, I guess, your handheld
yeah,
camera.
My handheld. I had the dash cam running, and I had my handheld Sony HDR up, kind of sticking up on the dashboard, and I was kind of hunkered down, trying to stay, mostly below the window line. I'm kind of looking around, if something big is coming to the window, I'm gonna, try to get down and not be hit by anything coming through the glass. But I can still look up and I can see that white cone up above me, and I knew it was going to be bad. But I was very lucky because you can see, like right here, condensation disappears. So I'm thinking the thing weakened. The closest survey point back up on Highway 24, and they rated it there at an EF0. Visually, it looked a lot stronger than right here. So this is even like a sub EF0 tornado, and it still was able to flip that horse trailer up in the air, and all these pieces of heavy equipment off to my right. So it's pretty sobering to think that even a very weak, small tornado without condensation can really put you in jeopardy.
Yeah, and this, whatever this is to the right of the screen, I'm not sure, it's some big farm equipment that actually did move as well.
Yeah, that started sliding. It popped the tire off the side. I think the tire just sitting next to it. You can see the tire fall down, and then it slides maybe 2 or 3 and stops. That's when the horse trailer starts moving, and it's really freaky to just be in a car in the tornado like this, and your vehicle is moving on its own. Because, like Skip said, you don't know, are the winds going to get 150? Is this the worst, or is this just the beginning of the worst? You can see sheet metal there flying from, I guess there was a barn behind the house. The house was spared mostly, but there was a couple of barns, outbuildings, that got destroyed. There you can see the sheet metal from them. And I guess there was a 1971 Mach 1 Mustang classic muscle car in one of the barns. The barn was completely removed around it, and the Mustang was untouched.
Oh,
so
that's
I'd like to buy that Mustang.
Yeah, I was gonna say at least there's a happy story out of all of this.
Yeah.
um,
I was spared and the Mustang was spared. But there was also a 77-year-old lady. I didn't know it at the time. The house looked like nobody was there, but she was inside the house at the time, too.
and she probably didn't even know this was going on.
There you can see one of my blankets goes flying up through the air past that telephone pole. There's more. As the circulation changed direction and came back the other way next to me, something knocked my mirror off the passenger side or the driver's side right there. You can see the mirrors off, totally cracked the glass and removed it. And then now the tornado is condensing again. It's passed over me and it's reforming maybe just a couple hundred yards to my south here. And there are power flashes, and you can see it gets a lot more intense. So had it formed like this over me, I don't think I would have survived, because I'm pretty sure my truck would have gone airborne, or it would have been cartwheeled across the field. I didn't have my seatbelt on at the time. I probably would have been ejected out one of the windows. I am just incredibly lucky that that thing didn't look like that right there as it was over me.
Yeah, and yeah, you could tell it's not only grown in size, but I don't know if the people at home on the stream can watch this, but it does seem to also rotate a lot stronger. But there's nothing out there. It looks like to hit, so of course we're not going to get an accurate damage reading out there, just because there's really nothing out in that direction where it's at right now.
It's crossing Highway 24 out there right now, and it didn't hit any cars or anything. Everybody saw it in enough time, and nobody drove into it accidentally.
And there's the horse trailer, right? On the left here, this is the horse trailer?
That's the horse trailer. I think it was a four-horse horse trailer, one of the bigger ones. And you can see it's laying on top of the barbed wire fence, so it was at least 3 feet in the air to get up and over that wire and then land on top of the wire. So that was pretty freaky when I saw that sitting where it was.
So how long did it take for all of this to sink in that you just survived a direct impact, or maybe not exactly a complete direct impact, but a very, very, very close impact to this tornado? How long did it take for it to sink in?
Oh boy, I mean, I was shaking for the rest of the day. I was like I couldn't punch buttons on my cell phone because my fingers were just like shaking so bad. It affected me, for days after, and I still think about it. How lucky I was, that I made this bonehead move on a county road I thought that went through that didn't, and got myself, basically like a trapped animal stuck in the corner with no way out. So, yeah,
now I guess
it can happen to any of us at any time. It's just you got to really be on your game all the time, navigating and being aware of where the rotation center is, the cloud features.
Now I noticed several people that kind of were commenting on this video, especially on Facebook and whatnot. Several guys were just wondering, why didn't you just go back the way you came in?
Yeah, in hindsight, that would have been the best thing to do. But I thought I was protecting my truck from hail damage, and so I thought I had found a pretty good hiding spot. And it was working. It was keeping me out of the baseballs. Had I gone back the way I came in, I definitely would have probably lost the windshield and into the hood and the cab roof. But all things considered, that would have been minor damage compared to what the tornado did to my truck. But yeah, when I parked there, the tornado had lifted, and I'm like, all right, I'll just let this thing go over me, and I'll chase him after the hail's excited. But yeah, that when I saw that funnel condense behind the farmhouse, I knew that I had made a bad decision staying where I was.
Right. You know that I'm sure you've probably heard it all. You've probably heard all the different flack that something like this comes with. I mean, so I got to ask you, what was probably the worst thing someone has said to you about this incident?
Mostly people have been supportive. I think, yeah, it's like even myself when I look at the video back, like it's like 5 minutes or more of me sitting there pointing at the farmhouse, and it's like, why didn't I just get out of there and go straight west, and take my hail strikes. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of think of it as, this is maybe a dumb analogy, but you remember in Jurassic Park 3 where the guy is in the cave and the T-Rex is right outside the cave and he gets freaked out by the coral snake, and he's like, it's like climbing down his neck. He's like, ah, and he turns around and he backs up out the cave and the T-Rex eats him. That was me. I was freaked out by the little coral snake, which was the hail, and I got eaten by the T-Rex tornado.
Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy. Yeah, Skip, you kind of talk about it. You've even said it in your chaser safety video that you made, that it's always better to just drive through the hail, no matter how big it is, than see what may be on the other side there.
Yeah, I mean, to me, kind of the trick is recognizing when you need to take that escape route. And, if you're in the bear's cage, to me, you absolutely should. And that was our downfall in the last chase, is we're chasing inside of the bear's cage, which is a position I normally never put myself in. And I was just wondering if you had, and Marcus brought that up too. Marcus was making good points that when you're that close, you don't have the visual cues that you need to identify this structure, because it's kind of nondescript cloud base, it's gust front. You can't tell the difference between RFD and tornado. I mean, it's just wind, and when you're in the circulation, it looks the same. It's just really, really windy outside, and I see a lot of chasers, pretty skeptical that they're not in the tornado, they're in the RFD. Well, if you're in the circulation of the tornado, there's really no difference. So it's just a lot of wind and kind of mist. But yeah, did you kind of know how close you were proximity-wise to the circulation? I mean, that was another big mistake that I made, is I should have been looking straight up, and I didn't, and I probably would have seen that swirl forming a lot quicker had I been looking, kind of directly up. But I was wondering if you had any visual cues that you were kind of like centered in the bear's cage or underneath the circulation going into that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I knew I could see the cone bowl lowering coming my way, and I saw the condensation behind the house, and I knew the tornado was back behind the house. And even at that point, it's almost like if somebody's gonna throw a ball at you, and you dodge left or you dodge right, and sometimes the direction you pick puts you in a worse spot. And so I was like, I better just stay where I am, and there's a chance it'll go past me, and there's a small chance it'll hit me, and it hit me.
Yeah, so you just kind of didn't get the lucky draw there. You hoping that it would kind of deviate to a different direction, and instead it just came really, really close to you. And yeah, you can kind of just tell from the direction of the trees, the way they were blowing, and the debris, that it was very, very close. But I don't think it was actually a direct hit. But I mean, like you said, Skip, there's what difference does it make? I mean, you're still in very strong winds, 100, maybe 100-mile-an-hour winds at that point. Just, because that's the thing, you look at tornado ratings and they say, well, maximum winds were this amount. That's maximum winds when the damage occurred. You could have, little milliseconds or a few seconds of really strong winds that kind of ramp up and don't really hit anything directly, but it still can create a lot of damage. So yeah, I mean, just judging on that, you're definitely. I don't think you were in the What'd you say it was EF0, and did they say how strong the winds were?
I didn't see that. Yeah, the closest survey point up on Highway 24 there. I'm not sure what they saw to rank it there, but yeah, probably I'd say it was close to 80 or 90 mile an hour winds. It felt like 80 or 90 mile winds because it was definitely moving the vehicle and feeling like the back tires were getting light in the mud.
Yeah. So I am glad that well, first off, I'm glad that you're okay, because I mean, not only just physically, but emotionally and mentally, that's a lot to run through your head. And of course, like you said, the days after, it'll keep repeating and it'll keep coming back. And that does affect different chasers differently. But from the sounds of it, it sounds like it's not going to actually stop you from chasing. You're just going to keep going out there. But I'm guessing you're going to be a little more. You're going to have a better escape route than what you had there at the time, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And be looking, a couple of county grids up ahead. Yeah, being in the tornado, it's not anything pretty or anything exciting. It's it's not like Twister where there's a hollowed out area in the middle with the inner swirl. It's just like a lot of dirt and a lot of wind and a lot of nothing. And tornadoes look so much better back, hundreds of yards or quarter mile back. Where you can see the whole thing. You can see the storm above it. Yeah, it's just not worth getting right in the tornado. There's nothing to see there.
You making that comment about that's not what it's like. It's not like the Twister movie. I think you just disappointed about 100 noobs that do watch the show.
Yeah.
They were really looking forward to that day where they can hang off of a pipe with a 30-foot leather strap wrapped around them and
strap yourself in. These pipes go down 30 feet.
Which I don't even know. I mean, why was there that long of leather belts in that storage shed? I don't know. Maybe a kinky family or something. I don't know.
Belt in the open or something.
Yeah. So, yeah. We talk about this quite a bit. I mean, we mentioned it always. Always. I think this was maybe not last episode, but the episode before, where we were talking about some advice for coring a storm, and one of them that came up was have an escape route planned. And that's definitely true in your case, but it wasn't so much you purposely put yourself there. I can see how you were worried about the hail, not too worried about the tornado because it didn't look too strong, and you just kind of made that mistake. It's almost like you kind of froze up because you didn't want to move because of the hail, but yeah, that escape route wasn't there for you, and that's probably related more to maybe some mapping errors or software errors, which in Colorado that's happened to me quite a few times actually, where it shows a county road that goes so far, and then once you go down that county road, it ends randomly, and I've had that happen a few times in Colorado mostly.
I've actually launched into a plowed field before, where it looked like the road kept going through as a solid gridded road, and you come over a hill and I went flying off a berm out 20 feet airborne into soft dirt where it was just like the road was not even there at all.
Were you in Baldo by chance?
Yeah. Luckily it was all dry and I just backed up out of there, but had I stayed there another 30 seconds, the storm I was staying out ahead, hastening out ahead of, hadn't gotten there yet. And there was no tornado, but yeah, you're on those county roads, you can just do crazy things at times.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always sketchy when it comes to county roads and dirt roads. This year especially with all the rains we've had, I think ever since it started raining, in May, I've not really gone on any dirt roads, especially Texas, Oklahoma, just because don't trust it, for one. You don't know if it's going to be dry or not. And then there's a lot of low-lying areas up the road. You don't know if it's going to be flooded over. Then you're really screwed, especially if you're trying to stay ahead or something. But
yeah, that's like the ponds that baseball flashing down into. Those aren't supposed to be there. That's usually dry farm field. Something else I've noticed too is you can have like a dry 3 inches on top of the road and the road seems fine, but as soon as it gets just a little bit of rain from the storm, it like reactivates the mud. So you can be on what you think is a well-graveled, safe dirt road, and then you get a little wraparound moisture in the RFD. Suddenly you're like sliding on cake batter.
Yep, I've slid through mud too many times this year. I don't like it. I don't like not having control. So, well, crazy story, Verne. There's not a lot of people that can really say a story like that and say they've survived or, are even okay to tell that story. I've heard a few stories from other chasers, some somewhat high-profile chasers, that they don't like to tell anybody because, they got that close, and it was too much for them to handle. So, Skip, do you have any other questions for Verne?
Yeah, I was just kind of curious. I think every chaser kind of handles it a little bit differently, but kind of in hindsight, can you tell us a little bit about, how you kind of feel about the event and maybe what kind of some of the repercussions are, and kind of, how did you come out on top of this event? To be honest, there's, like Marcus just said, there's chasers who will never ever come out and say that they were hit by a tornado. They hide it very jealously or very cautiously, I mean. And there are some chasers who will just full out brag about it. They'll go out and say, "Hey, we were in the tornado. It was awesome. It was the best thing that ever happened to me." And the event that I saw that a lot on was, because I'm working with the survey group, is El Reno, and there were some chasers who refused to participate or provide their video or GPS data because they were ashamed that they were in that spot, and there were other chasers who were in the tornado essentially and getting hit by satellite tornadoes that were coming around the rim. And there was one in particular I remember where Sean Casey's in the TIV. He's actually filming vehicles that are closer than he is in the armored TIV getting hit by these satellites. And we asked the chaser. I asked him. I said, what would you do differently on the El Reno chase? And he said nothing. It was the best chase ever. He loved it. So I mean, in the tornado, getting hit basically, and it was like the greatest thing that ever happened to him. So you see this great big spectrum of response from chasers, and I was just kind of curious. And from my standpoint, again, we are in a very weak EF0, but I got that whole mix of emotions and kind of fallout from it. I was just kind of curious what you were going through and maybe what some of the repercussions are and kind of the fallout and where you stand now, I guess, on kind of the situation.
Well, yeah. I mean, the worst part of it my kids, their reaction to it, and I could tell their faces and their, what they were saying. They want me around, and it'd be very selfish for me to do that to my kids. Was the biggest thing.
So so what you're saying is you were that you would definitely do it differently because of your kids, because the kids are more important than any tornado shot you could ever get or any close experience you could ever have.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think you can get a better experience back. A quarter mile. If you have to get close, don't get any closer than a quarter mile. If it's closer than that, it's just not worth it. There's nothing to see. There's flying debris, and but it could be in straight line winds. It doesn't look any different than straight line winds at that close range. And there's just no good reason to get in the circulation. The tornado looks much better, looks much more photogenic, half a mile back and further away. And I know that now for sure. And I'm gonna, not want to get that close in the future. I still love storm chasing though. It will always be the best thing, that I could ever do or anybody could ever do. That you guys know. It alters your DNA. You are forever going to be chasing tornadoes, and I am too.
Yeah, it's weird. This is probably a subject for another show, but I don't know what it was, and I think it may have been the string of bad years I've had. I can't say I've had terrible, the worst years ever, but definitely 2013 and 14 were really bad for me, just in numbers and quality. So to have a great year like I'm having this year, it's like ignited that fire that I had way back when I first started, back in 2008, where even though I didn't see anything major, I did, at all, but being on my first chase, you get that adrenaline and you get that fire. You just want to keep doing this. You want to do everything you can to do it as much as you can. And and for me, that was after the Elmer tornado this year, and then it kind of continued on because I've had a couple of good chases since then. Of course, Canadian for me, but that fire was reignited under me, and I'm just like, okay, I'm much older. I'm a little bit more wiser, not much more wiser, but I'm a little wiser. I've got to think about how to do this more, and so that's kind of where I'm at now. I want to find a way to do this. And I don't even care about getting paid for it, but I want to just have that freedom to do this as much as I can, I guess as much as I can afford. I think, with chasing, the money aspect isn't so much the biggest issue for me, or for some chasers it is. I think for some chasers it's actually just getting the time to do it, to get off of work and whatnot. So yeah, I can relate. It does change you. You go from being one person, and then one chase could do it. It could alter the way you think of life. You have this different perspective on things, and your priorities get jumbled up, unfortunately.
Yep.
And so, and that's where I'm at. My priorities are really jumbled up, and I need to get one more good string of chases out. I'm going to be really excited if I get anything on those chases. But then I think towards the fall, I'll finally fall back to earth and hopefully rearrange my priorities to where they need to be. But yeah, I can relate. I'm way up there right now on addicted to this stuff, and some people, it's weird. I talk to people about chasing, and they don't have, almost get a little ticked off that they even ask me about chasing, because they don't understand how much I love it and how much I do everything I can to do it. And so it kind of ticks me off because they don't understand that, and they don't understand that's what I want my life to be. But some people do, and it's really fun to talk to those people. And all I can say is for all the noobs that watch, or even some of the veterans, man, if you love it, if it doesn't matter if it's chasing or not, if you love it, do whatever you can to spend more time doing it. That's kind of that's about as best advice I can tell anybody. So, Skip, what about you? Are you there? You have priorities. You have a family. Skip, you can't. I know you love chasing, but you can't say chasing is your biggest priority right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I'm kind of learning that the hard way too. You know, because you know, I want to chase, I want to be out there, and I want to see all these tornadoes, but I can't. I have to stay home sometimes, and I know that. And it's a struggle for me. It's something I'm really struggling with right now, and I haven't talked about it much, except with a couple of friends. But I'll admit here on this show that yeah, it's been a difficult season for me. We've got some really nice chases, great tornadoes. Uh, and I've gotten to chase a lot and with great people, but on the other hand, we've missed a lot of events, and the chasing has been stressful and it's been a lot of work, and you know, there's times where I had family events, like a wedding that I had to go to, and I missed the Elmer-Tipton tornado, and you know, we missed Rochelle, and we missed Canadian, and we missed June 4, and we missed June 5, and you know, that stings a lot. So yeah, it's kind of been a struggle of a season for me. I'm, you know, being a new father, I've got a baby, and I still want to chase, and kind of juggling all of that. You know, it's been a lot. So
Yeah, I can't imagine because I don't have a child, but you know I can imagine that you're just trying to jumble so much. You're trying to juggle a lot of stuff in your head, and I'm sure there's days where you're just kind of like, God, what am I doing? Like, you know, I've had that happen with work and chasing and mixing that together, and you know, taking a lot of time off to chase and then coming back and kind of getting in trouble for it.
yeah,
um, you're kind of like you're like, man, what the heck am I doing? Like, you know, I'm gonna be able to do this next year. It's cool,
yeah.
but you know, and that's obviously, you know, what you have going for yours. Yours a little more, uh, you know, you have a child and a wife, and that's a lot different than what I go through.
Yeah, I
But
don't want
you
to sound like
know,
a drama queen, you know, but it's in such a mix, and I'm so all over the place, you know, because I'm out there for a week, and you know, we're chasing these strings of 2%, 5% days, getting bird parts, and it's like, why am I chasing out here? I should be home. I'm getting tired of this, and you know, I absolutely love chasing, but you know, sometimes it wears on you when when it becomes your job, and and then there's times where I'm at home where I really regret it too. You know, it's like, well, I wish I were out there in the field. Look at everything I'm missing. So I mean, it's hitting me both ways, and it's something I'm working on dealing with this season. But
yeah,
hopefully gonna come out as a better person and make the right decisions in the long run. I think the fall will be a good time to recoup, like you said, and also I'm really looking forward to one good run in June. I think that's really gonna help. You know, if we get one or two good days in there in the Northern Plains, I think the season will end, and I'll be happy it's kind of over, and then you know, fall will be a great time to recoup and see where we're at.
yeah. And then October will roll around, and we're doing the fall season. Then you're like, crap, I gotta get out there.
Second season, yeah.
Yeah,
Got to
exactly.
get in on that too. Yeah, there's always going to be a new job, and you can't get out because you don't have vacation yet, and got a new baby, and I always tell myself, you know, tornadoes have been raking across the central plains for thousands of years, and if I miss an event, there's going to be another one coming, and it, you know, it may be more awesome than what I missed, and it probably will be more awesome than what I missed. So, at my age, I finally just don't sweat the stuff I missed, but it took a long time to get to that spot.
Yeah, and um, another thing about all of this is there are some veterans this year that are having a terrible year, or just not getting the luck that they really hope for. Two of them I know. One of them, Shane. I know he's had some luck. He's got some tornadoes this year, but I know early on when April was rolling in and we were getting a lot of good setups. He couldn't be out there. He missed it. And even part of May, he was talking about, maybe I don't even remember if he was talking about it on the show, but he was definitely talking about it in Storm Trek chat, and just how frustrated he was. And I really hope I don't ever come across those years, but I know it's going to happen. It happens to everybody. You get frustrated because you're limited on something. You're limited on time, or you're limited on money, and or resources too. I mean, if you don't have vehicles lined up, but you're limited by something. So then you have to pick and choose which days you want to go, and you can get a string of chases where you put a lot of effort and time and money into it, and it doesn't produce, and you get home, and that's the worst feeling ever, is whenever you put a lot of time and effort and money into one chase or a string of chases, and you come home empty-handed. That's happened to me, and as soon as you get home, or I guess you should say, as soon as you go to work the next day, you're the most bitter person on the planet for that whole day, because things didn't happen the way you were hoping. And you brought up a point, Vern. Tornadoes happen every year. It's never going to fail. There's going to be almost 1,000 tornadoes every year, and it doesn't. It's not the end of the world if you miss a few, but you might miss the tornado of the year. But I always think that there's always redemption for anyone that's got enough perseverance in the hobby. You will be rewarded generously at some point. I hope everyone kind of gets their I guess golden egg of a tornado this year, if you haven't already. There's some guys that they've got nothing of the year, and I feel really bad for them, because I don't know, and maybe you guys would feel the same or maybe differently, but I feel like I would rather see every chaser that has put some, not just new chasers, but guys that have had 3, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20. I want to see every chaser get good tornadoes every year, because that's the whole reason we're out there. That's the whole reason why we all, I mean, maybe not the whole reason, but several of us become friends because of that. And, for me, I hate hearing about guys that have nothing throughout the year. Unless it's been a slow year. 2014, I understood if you had no tornadoes because there wasn't a whole lot to chase. 2013 as well. I mean, there wasn't these string of days. But like this year, I hate to say it, there have been several tornado days, several setups, and there's still guys that just get unlucky, whether it's bad targeting or just bad luck on the road, car problems, whatnot. And I feel really bad for them, because I want them to be successful on these years that are actually doing pretty well. But the year's not over yet. We're halfway there. We have the rest of June. For you Northern Plain guys, there's still July, August. That's kind of the peak of the year for the Northern Plains, even up into Canada. There's still a lot of time to get that one, and it's funny how the season could really change, though, because, was it March, maybe even early April, we were talking about this is going to be a repeat of 2014. It's going to suck. It's going to be a bad year. Although it's been a difficult year, there has definitely been more setups this year than we've seen in the last 2 years, at least. So there is that. That is a good consolation, I guess. But like you say, Skip, there's always going to be tornadoes. You just got to get out there and see them. And luckily for you, and of course Verne, this is kind of the peak year or peak time of the year for you guys as well. Skip, you talk about those warm fronts in Illinois always being sleeper days. You never know when something might come up, and especially if you got that lake sea breeze, that throws out that boundary. That's any sort of boundary on days in June can always be good. Verne, you've got upslope, Palmer Divide up in Colorado. Does not take much moisture or shear or anything for that matter for a tornado to get produced out in that elevation. You guys, you can almost be out there every day in June, and you're guaranteed something in Colorado. Down here, we're getting to be summer here in the Panhandle. It's getting to be summer. It's getting really hot. We do have a lot of moisture, but we also have a really strong cap. But the days where the caps are weak, you get a little bit of bulk shear in the area, you get a lot of cape, and you have exactly what Chris got in 2005 almost. In 2 days, it'll be 10 years, June 12, 2005, where you can just have the cyclic supercell out there off the dry line just producing tornado after tornado, tornado. That's kind of the dynamics we're in right now. We're in that pattern where you don't look at the long range too much, or at least not with too much detail. It's all going to rely on the morning of, just kind of what's going on. Surprise day. This is the time of year where surprise days just happen. What day was that? I think it was only like 2 days ago, where I guess it was northern Illinois, Skip, that was kind of under threat, had like a 2% or something, and then it was a really messy boundary, and then the one tornado warning storm was like way up on the North Dakota Canada border. Was that like 2 days ago or something?
Oh, yeah. You're thinking of the Saturday event, right? Where there was, I think you were thinking of Sunday, yeah. There was that 2% down in Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, and then we had some south-moving storms up on the Minnesota-North Dakota border, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and they were tornado warned. So,
yeah.
Last year it was North Dakota again. Was it last year, the oil field incident?
Yep.
I mean, that was way out of place from SPC's Outlook area. And in fact, I think it was a big day. Wasn't it a big day down south in like Nebraska or something? Or am I thinking it was just a random day?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I'd have to look. I think there was a risk down south, but I don't remember if anything verified down there.
Yeah, that was, a setup down south, which is what a lot of June days look like, kind of central U.S. And then, of course, North Dakota is the one that has the big photogenic tornado. I mean, surprise days happen anywhere and everywhere. Don't get discouraged if you've had a bad season, because I think, everyone could still make out a good season. Shane Adams had his surprise in October of 2010. He had probably one of his best tornadoes of his career, is what he says. Rice, Texas tornado. He was one of the few on it. But, it's just weird surprises like that really make the day. 2% tornado area days are my favorite. You usually get the nice, weak, but very photogenic tornadoes around that time, hopefully. But anyway, I'm rambling on a little bit. Just be patient, because the season's not over. And I'm saying that for everyone that's watching. The season's not over. Something could still happen. You still have the fall season, which saved my ass in 2011. After a crap year, my 2011 was much like this year for you, Skip, except I didn't get the photogenic Colorado tornadoes on May 9th, like you guys got. I struck out a lot in 2011. I was committed to certain days to go out. The days I went out, didn't do much. The next day, I went out May 23rd of 11. Got a nice supercell, a little funnel. I thought that was cool. Had to go back the next day for work. Sure enough, next day was May 24th, 11. Big high risk in Oklahoma. And, of course, there was several tornadoes that day. Verne scored his awesome Canton Lake tornado that day. So it happens. You got to miss out on some days. Some days, the day you do go out may not do anything. But that year was made up by November 7th of 11. Of course, big cyclic supercell in southwest Oklahoma that produced. And, it doesn't matter what time of year tornadoes will happen as long as the environment's there. So But yeah. Anyway. So Vern, you said you might be heading out. Well, with you being in Colorado, you probably don't know for sure when you're going to head out to chase again. But are there any days coming up that you're looking at maybe leaving out of state?
I don't think I'll have to leave the state for a little while. Tomorrow is a chase day here on the Eastern Plains. I'm expecting at least a 2% tornado tomorrow here in Colorado, and maybe even a 5. We'll have to see. There's a cold front dropping down night, and then we get what we call the day 1 or day 2 post-frontal flow across northeast Colorado. Mm-hmm. So we get that continental air mass moisture pushing west behind the front up into the Denver area. And then if we just got a little upper air support, then we get storms forming. So I think tomorrow might be a tornado day here.
Might get
that I haven't really looked at my next trip out of state.
Yeah, you might get a repeat of May 15th of this year. Were you out on that day?
May 15th. Refresh my memory. What happened May 15th?
Tornado near Hoyt, Colorado. I remember seeing you. That was the day where the big risk was up in like the Nebraska Panhandle, and everyone was up there. And then that one supercell rolled out of like Castle Rock or something, and just, or maybe it was further south. But
oh, that's weird. I don't remember chasing that day, but I think I've been out on every single Colorado day except August 7th or August 5th. I mean, sorry, June 5th. After I get hit by that tornado, I was like, okay, I need a day off. Then I chased the second day.
Yeah, I know I saw your icon on May 15th because I was up near Fort Morgan, I think, and I had to make a decision whether to go to Nebraska, towards Nebraska, up I-86 or 76, I guess, or play the supercell rolling out of Denver. Yeah, I went right over the airport. That's right, and knocked the radar out for a while. But that's when.
Yeah, I was on that cell. So it's weird. If I don't know if you guys are like this or not, but if I don't see a tornado, I completely forget the day. If I saw a tornado, then it's like indelible, burned into my memory.
Oh, so you missed that one, huh?
Yeah, I was right on the what is that road? It's like out of Bennett. I was just north of Bennett in a perfect spot, and yeah, that thing had great structure, and the tornado, I don't know, it kind of formed way up high out of a weird spot, and I never saw it touch down. And it was very weakly rotating, so it wasn't like anything to write home about. But the storm structure was awesome when it came out of EIA and hit the radar site.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could show Verne my picture of that day. Might make him a little jealous, but I think he deserves it because he's seen too much already in June. You can see my screen, right, Verne?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Okay. I actually got this picture blown up because it's going to be one of my favorites of the year. Wait. Hang on. Let me...
I was on the west side looking back east. And, yeah, you can kind of see it in your picture. It's like coming out of the really high spot in the updraft there. It's weird.
Well, see, what was funny is we're watching that. The clouds in the foreground, like up here, was actually the RFD, and it had wrapped all the way around the storm. and was blowing north, and literally all that was left of the updraft was the funnel, and that was it. It was such an amazing sight. I saw it with Eric Kelly. We met up with him, and
Oh yeah, it's Eric.
and he was like, oh, I don't know if we need to go to Nebraska or play that big severe storm coming out of Denver. And then after about 2 seconds, we're like, okay, that storm right there, because yeah, we approached from the north, and we got on some dirt roads, and it looked like it was on the ground earlier because we were looking north into the precip, and it looked like there was a big cone on the ground. I don't know if you saw that from your angle or not. And then
I'm pretty sure I saw something back in there, but there was so much hail and low cloud tags that I couldn't get a really good view of it. But, I think somebody posted a picture of my Modern Network icon next to a big velocity couplet, saying, "What did you see at this time?" And I'm like, not much. It sure didn't look like worthy of that velocity couplet where I was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we saw one in the rain, and then as we went south, and then we started going west to where it was going to cross, and from there, that's when that it was just a wall cloud, and then suddenly the wall cloud just morphed into that funnel, and it had that funnel for so long, probably about 20 minutes, where it's just that funnel, and it was slowly shrinking away, and you could tell it was just that was all that was left of the updraft was the funnel itself. Because after that funnel disappeared, the storm disappeared off radar completely. So.
That was the last dying gasp.
Yeah, so I'm glad. Okay, I got my Colorado Magic once. You've gotten yours. Skip's gotten his. Lucky bastard. I mean, both of you guys got great days. I mean, May 9th is going to be, one of those days. Because I guess it's funny because May 9th, it was supposed to be a big day in Southwest Oklahoma and whatnot, but never happened. Or Southwest Kansas, and it never happened. Instead, there was Cisco, Texas, and Eastern Colorado. So, but yeah, 'tis the season of Palmer Divide as well as Northern Plains. So hopefully everyone gets out and chases some more. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up the show, I guess, because we are at about 2 hours. So not much going on in the Q&A. I guess it probably would have helped if I would have mentioned there was a Q&A again. But we'll have to catch that next time. Quick news on my end: I am moving out of this house this weekend, and I will be moving into another house by the weekend. I do leave Tuesday night for chasing. Probably won't be back until Sunday night, possibly early Monday morning. So there's likely not going to be a show. If I get the wild hair to do one, probably Monday. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about. I never know what we're going to talk about until like the day before, because I'm not that prepared. Thanks, Skip, for giving me the topic idea for this week, because he was the one that actually told me that you, Verne, wanted to talk about your intercept on the 4th.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, guys, and thanks for giving me a chance to tell everybody what happened. And bottom line, tornadoes don't look like anything special from inside. Stay out of them.
Exactly, because you had that angle on yours. And it was kind of cool to watch, but I still think Daniel Shaw got cooler footage of that day because he was coming in from the west.
Yep. Yeah.
What's a good example of that is?
Yeah, west side there.
Yeah, go ahead, Skip.
I was just going to say Campo is a great example of that, too. You had Andy Gabrielson and Tim Samaras on the same road, and they were kind of jockeying for who could get closest to the debris cloud. And their footage was not as good as everyone who was about a half mile back, because the funnel cloud was so gorgeous. And Andy and Tim, they couldn't even see it. They were so damn close. So, well, you couldn't see it in their video, but I mean, yeah, hang back a bit and get a better show.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because this year being the year of HP's high precip storms, you kind of need to get a little close to kind of see what's going on. But yeah, it makes the day stressful because then, if you don't see anything, it could come out of the rain. And I agree. I think my perfect viewing area, I've always kind of been a guy that likes to sit about a mile and a half away. I love kind of seeing the mesostructure and the wall cloud rotating around with the tornado. That's just my preference. So, yeah, back up a little bit. Kind of let it pass if you need to. Um, there was several guys that got really great footage on June 4th, and they were all a little bit further back. By the way, jaw-dropping structure on that day too. Not just the tornadoes themselves, but the huge bell updraft was just the pictures are just incredible from that day. I don't know that day might go down, or it might be really close contender to Rochelle. But then again, Rochelle did have great structure as well. So, but anyway, we will probably do that down the line. We'll do kind of tornado of the year. And then another thing that I wanted to do is towards the end of the year, when we kind of run out of topics, inevitably run out of topics, it's going to happen. I think I might put together a best of show, just kind of get snippets from each show, some really funny moments. I think a lot of people would enjoy that. It'll also be like a good little promo for someone that's new to kind of get an idea of what we're all about. So, Verne, real quick, social media, where can everybody find you at, so that way we can see more crazy action from you?
Just Verne Carlson on Facebook. I post most of my stuff on there.
Cool. Pretty simple. Skip, of course, we can find you at your website. Is that correct?
Yep, just go to skip.cc, and there's links on that page to my other stuff. So.
All right, cool. The txwxchaser.com for me. That's my photo gallery, mostly. I do have a YouTube page, just my name. Look it up. I'm also on Facebook now. A lot of people seem to be shocked by it. 4 years absent, and I'm back. So feel free to add me if you're a chaser. I don't mind adding chasers. If you post stuff I don't like, I'm just going to unfollow you, but we'll still be friends. I don't care. And Twitter, at the TXWX Chaser on Twitter. Every now and then, as I'm on the field, that's kind of where I throw my reports and my up to the minute stuff. Also, follow the show on Facebook, and then also on Twitter. We do have a Twitter as well for the show. Send us your suggestions. Send us any show ideas. You can directly message me on Facebook or Stormtrack for show ideas. Maybe even if you want to be a guest. And we do have quite a big guest list, so we're trying to put a little more variety on each show to make sure we're going to have a different guest on each show, at least a new one. And hopefully we'll have, hopefully we get Chris back on the show. He seemed to be a really enjoyable person to talk to. And hopefully, Verne, you'll come back on the show at some point. Yep. And we'll try to get some more of the older veterans. It was really a treat to have Gene Moore on the last episode, and hopefully we can get some guys from his era as well to get on. Someone go message Tim Marshall and tell him to be on my show, because that'd be cool. So yeah. So I want to thank everyone for watching. While I'm talking, I'm going to try to scroll my mouse to the not broadcast button, because I need to get a new mouse, I guess, because I put batteries in it and it don't work very well. Maybe I need a mouse pad. Okay. Anyway, thanks for watching. We really appreciate all the fans that watch. It's really cool to see random people just say, I love the show. I'm surprised that we have that many viewers. But I went back and looked at some of the shows, and Fiverr, and we do have several hundred views on some of these episodes, which means there's a lot of new people that watch, and that's really cool. So you guys are the ones that keep this chugging along. So let me know, give me any feedback, whether it's good or bad. I don't care. I just want to know what you think. And we'll see you guys next time. Maybe next week. Maybe, I don't know. Don't hold me to it. Maybe a couple weeks after that. But we'll see. Hopefully, if you're getting chased, be safe. Try not to get run over by tornadoes or horse trailers or anything of the sort. we're glad Verne came on the show and told his side of it because yeah, that was good. But anyway, we'll see you guys next time and hope you guys have a good night.